Hey everybody, welcome to the Purpose People podcast. Today I've got Luke Doyle from Bravura Digital. So welcome. Thanks for coming and joining us on our podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Daryl. Yeah.
Luke, you do what a lot of people find very difficult, which is essentially getting leads. So there's a lot of marketing out there and whatever else. But at the end of the day, when people say, what's the ROI? What does that mean for you when someone says that to you?
That's a really good question. It's hard to say, actually, because I would have to look at the funnel. Yeah. And generally, when I'm talking to businesses and consulting them, I look at it like if I can get a small business 16 leads per month, so 16 to 20 leads per month, then that's likely to convert into around 1 or 2 customers per month. Yeah. So that's sort of the amount of leads that you need per month to then generate a couple of customers. Yeah. So if I'm able to do that for them, then obviously there's a lot of value in doing that. Yeah, of course. And I think that's what sparked my interest with the topic of lead generation is how it's just so valuable. Just the number of leads you can get per month. It just adds so much value to the business.
I think for me, what I found is this aspects of lead generation and ROI is that, businesses that employ someone like your services, like digital services, whatever, they're expecting you to make loads of sales. And I always come from the perspective of our job is not necessarily bringing you sales. You're still going to have someone that closes a deal, gets the contract signed, and even sends the invoice over. But what we can do is get people to your door that are the people that you want to do business with. Yeah. And we'll help you with all the marketing you need to get to that point, but you still got the aspect of you've got to convert, you've got to have that sale. Yeah. And, I know like with us, because we've done some collaborative work together that, I love your answer to my question because it was a bit loaded, but it depends on what you want actually. And it's very much on, what's the structure of your business, how you're going to make things, because what I found is some people aren't even ready to make extra sales. If I said to someone, I'll bring you 5 new customers a month, they would freak, but they want new business. And it's quite an interesting one is that a famous guy called Grant Cardone, I don't know if you've heard of him. And he done this exercise where he phoned businesses up and said, give me your biggest package. I'm ready to pay for it now. What is it? And I think it was like 8 out of the 10 businesses that he run weren't ready. And he's got the money. Yeah. And it was like, wow. So as a business owner or a leader in that organization, we have to focus on the fact is if we've got 5 clients tomorrow, can we handle it? And then reverse engineer before, let's say, we engage with people like you. Because if we don't, we carry on as we are. But if we want growth, we've got to be prepared for it, Yeah. So you could do many things in the world, I'm sure. Why this?
Yeah, I think it's just where I think I could add most value to companies as well. So if I go back in my career, I've got a mixture of graphic design originally experience, I've got marketing experience, and sales experience. Yeah. So it's really a combination of a little bit of all of it actually. When it comes down to it. But I think that it just got me quite excited about it, especially working for a number of small companies before I ventured on my own. That I could see that this was one of the biggest problems that they had was how do you generate, as a small business, how do you generate more leads and more customers, and finding the best way possible for your business. With what I do and how I go about doing it, it's completely bespoke for the company. But we really focus on relationship first approaches, and I really want to lean towards that for people where possible. Because traditionally you've got lead generation being quite a market that's seen as spam. So you have lots of emails coming through from lots of salespeople. Lots of them are automated. That could be on email or LinkedIn. And my approach is actually we want to take some of the tools and techniques that we can have and use, but actually focus on the relationship first. And that's one of the cornerstones of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, because So I'm showing my age now, Luke, but back in the day, I worked for an agency that had a strapline data-driven marketing, which obviously makes sense to everybody today. But back then it was quite emergent. And the reason why it was is that they did a lot of direct mail. So they could measure based on if there was a response, they would give a code. So you could tell that it's come from that particular campaign, so to speak. But again, the conversion rates, a good campaign was like 5% out of thousands and thousands and thousands of direct door drops or whatever. You would increase your chances if you bought a list and you could laser it. I don't know if you know what that means, but laser pieces of paper with dear whoever with their name and address, and then you would send it out. So it's a bit more targeted, and then you'd obviously get conversion rates that are slightly higher. But in essence, digital marketing is direct mail or direct email in a sense. It's just like it's an inbox of some description to a very wide net. And I think you've got, as you said, it's about relationships that takes it to a slightly different level and different angle of actually engaging people. It's rather than like shooting and hopefully one of the bullets will hit. You're kind of like a bit more targeted.
I think generally the market's going towards the more personalization you can get and the more laser focused you can get on who you're targeting, the better in terms of selling. And the reason is because the market's gone towards more spam and more automation, and with AI it's just going to get much worse, and you're going to see more of it. So the more personalized you can get, the better, I think, at the moment.
It's a really good point about AI, that actually if you don't know how to use it, you're right, it's going to get worse. It's just going to be more and more stuff just being posted out there. It's like just loads of information, but not processed, not thought through. It's just like, well, if we hit 10,000 people, well, at least one will say yes. That's not good, is it?
No, not at all. It's interesting because I think there is, like you said, a bit of a volume side of this as well. So you do need the amount of people as well. There's always going to be, in terms of business, there is a bit of a numbers game behind it. So the more people you speak to, the more chance you have of succeeding and earning some new business. But then at the same time, you don't want to just show the person that you don't care through spamming them. It's the opposite of what you want to do. So there's some really clever tools out there that can help you with sort of semi-automated campaigns, and the way you structure these lead generation campaigns that we run is quite interesting. There's it's about not just going for the meeting straight away, and actually trying to arrange something like a podcast or a webinar or a workshop, anything like that, where you invite the person to your world first. And I think that's really important.
Of course.
And then you can start to nurture them from there.
Yeah, because what I've seen is, particularly with LinkedIn now, and I think it's because of the automated software that's up there, but definitely pitch slapping as a term that I learned a few weeks ago. But, where literally it's like the old person that comes into a networking meeting with all their business cards and trying to sell services from the get-go, with no intention to have a conversation. You need to buy my services. And that's what's happened on LinkedIn. It's just like loads of this. You might get someone who looks at you and then you add them back, and then it's like pitch, and it's just not a conversation. It's just broadcast. You must buy my services. And obviously from where I come from, I go, well, that just shows me you don't understand marketing. You don't understand relationship. You don't understand the audience that you're going after. Which obviously turns me off completely. Especially when they go, we can redesign your website, or we can do some video for you. It's like, have you watched our videos? Have you been to our website? Clearly not. So out of all the things that you're doing though, you obviously got into the world of graphic design and stuff like that. But was it more a case of the journey that you were on, that you just felt that you could give more impact? Is that kind of what drove you to sort of like go down this route? Yeah,
definitely. I think for me it was through talking to small business owners, just find out what their biggest problems are, and if it's in this area of lead generation. It was just a big problem that I felt like needed to be solved. And it's also my own learning and education in this space as well. That I'm constantly always learning as well. So the more I learn, the more I can pass on to my customers. The more people we speak to, the more problems we solve. And eventually, you know, I want to be in a position where I'm, you know, creating white papers, for example, and sharing this knowledge with people and saying, like, these are the facts and statistics around how to generate more leads. I think that would be, you know.
So what's your, you know, like if someone is like an SME, they're looking to engage marketing, they might have had their fingers burnt, which you often find when you're in the world of marketing. What are the tools that you would recommend them to start using a bit more than what they're currently using? What would you say they would need to engage with to improve their lead generation?
Sure. Is this in the business to business space?
Yeah, in business to business space. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So LinkedIn, definitely. I think
because you'd be amazed how many people haven't even got one of those, a LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think LinkedIn's, you know, a really good space. That's pretty much like having a networking event and having everybody in the business to business industry just in the space in one arena, and you could speak to anybody, you know, and you can actually get directly to the decision maker or the person you really want to speak to. Yeah. So I think that's really important with LinkedIn and the fact you can do that. And then I think other sort of technologies that are available that I find quite interesting involve sort of data enrichment. So okay, how do you start if you have do you have your list of your target audience originally? Do you know who they are? Do you know not everything about them, but do you know how you could contact them and the different ways you could contact them? So kind of taking a bit more of an account-based marketing approach. Yeah. So if you have that list, then you can do something with it. Whereas I think most businesses that I do speak to, they don't have the list to begin with. Yeah. So just having something there where you can decide what strategy you need to target those people is really important.
So what would you say to those businesses literally that haven't got anywhere? Because that's quite a common problem in itself, that, you know, they've got a business, they've probably walked thousands of miles on their shoe leather to engage business in terms of what they're doing and through networking and that sort of stuff. Yeah. What would you say to them when they go, I haven't got a list, what do I need to do? You know, where would you start with those types of people? Because I've seen that quite a lot where you go, well, who's your list? Oh, I thought you were going to tell me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I think LinkedIn is a great place, but if you use Sales Navigator, then you can get a very refined list of the target audience. Yeah, and then you can see, okay, how many people do I need to? What sort of people what sort of volume are we talking about? Are we talking thousands, hundreds? You know, some customers that I've worked with have like 16 potential customers. Yeah. And that sounds really small, but it's a very specific niche. Yeah. With very big companies up to, you know, companies that are targeting hundreds of thousands of businesses. Yeah. And it's just the nature of these different businesses and the amount of different people they can target. So I would definitely look at LinkedIn Sales Navigator first. And then outside of that, there are some other tools that are incredibly useful. So some of them are Apollo.io. Mm-hmm. So that's incredibly useful for getting a refined list of target audience. Lucia is another popular tool to do that. And outside of that, there is another tool called Cognism, which is an incredible tool for data, but it is a little bit more on the expensive side. So for a small business,
it might be a bit out of reach.
It might be out of reach depending on the size and what you're looking to do. So ultimately, you're trying to use this data to try and equip your salespeople with the information they need to then go and start speaking with your target audience.
So I think for me, when I look at, you know, like building lists and engaging with people, I also find that you'll get a couple of businesses. So you've got some businesses that are functioning and working because of their supply chain that they've got, and they don't do too much marketing. And then you've got the marketing manager come in and he's like, I'm literally starting from a standing start. You've got another sort of person that's never done marketing before whatsoever. So you're almost educating as well as working with them. And I think for me, it's defining that target audience is quite a big one. You know, who do you want to work with? Mm-hmm. And then you'll get things like, well, everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like being able to sort of like get them to answer what they actually want. Or I've found the best way to do it is say, well, who do you do your best work for?
Mm-hmm.
And then that begins to unlock things.
Yeah.
You know, like, because there are certain clients that if you said, if they rung up, you look at your phone, oh, you know, but you don't want loads of those, do you? Well, no, I don't. No. Right. So who do you want to ring your phone? And then they're like, well, if they were like, and all of a sudden you've got them in a position from being like, oh, I didn't know what the answer was, to, oh yeah, we work with this client and we love working with them because they're X, Y, and Z. And I think that for me, when it's a case of lead generation, people just don't know how to articulate what they already know.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that's really important. Yeah. If you could pick your favorite customers and find more of them, then that's amazing. And it's just taking some time to really have a think about who it is that you really want to speak to, because you're right, you could speak to so many businesses, but if you're being super targeted, then and you go after a small list of companies, you can be really highly targeted and create some really interesting creative campaigns around individual companies, and I think that's quite interesting as well. But other than that, I think there's use of intent data. So with intent data, with some of these tools I mentioned, Apollo, Cognism, you have the ability to create a filtered list, but also filter on the businesses that are currently in the market looking for these services or your services at the moment. So that's really interesting, and that's kind of changed the business to business industry over the last few years, especially. Some of the figures are really interesting about this, because if you can get a more refined list of companies that are actually in the market looking for your services, then, and you can target these people, then a couple of things are going to happen. So one, you're getting a much more refined list, and you can be highly targeted, but also they are going to get approached more by other companies as well that are using the same information. And that's quite interesting. So over the last couple of years, it's shown that the length of the business to business life cycles grown by 3 or 4 months, for example.
Right. Okay.
So it's the sales cycle's taking longer.
Agreed. That's the biggest thing I've seen in the last couple of years that's changed the most. The route to market, as in that journey, is a lot longer. Yeah.
And so on top of that, you have the number of people involved as well. That's increased.
Okay.
So that was quite interesting. So the fact that you might have more decision makers, especially amongst larger companies.
Do you think that's more decision makers that are asked to the decision maker to ask for another decision?
Probably, yeah.
Because it's always like, so can you say yes? Yeah. Once I've spoken to Bill, and then Bill's got to go and speak to Jane, and Jane's got to speak to Judith, and then Karen who's at the very top then says yes. Yeah, I think we're probably being very considerate, maybe. I don't know. The hierarchical structure we used to have, maybe that's changing slightly, and maybe we're just talking to more people to make the decisions. But apparently, there's on average is about, some of the bigger companies, about 9 people involved in the decision. So obviously that's different for smaller companies, but it's still quite interesting that that's the trend. Yeah, I certainly think when you're in the cost of living crisis, like we've been talking about in the news and stuff like that, I think people are spending on marketing, and they've probably had been burnt quite a few times by marketing, and in that conversation then it's like, oh, are you sure this is going to work? Because last time it didn't work, and so I think there's a lot of, I think unfortunately for marketeers like myself, like yourself, I think there's that, the trust aspect is the hard thing. I mean, if you got trust and you can prove that you got a track record, it makes life a lot easier. But you definitely are having to ask a lot more questions that you used to have. And that might be because maybe the CEO's like double, triple checking what spend's being spent, for that reason.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think the know, like, trust thing that people speak about in marketing, that's still really relevant, I think. And content marketing, that's really still massively important. And I think it's especially for nurturing clients as well as raising awareness and attracting the right type of people. But if you don't have that content there, so say on LinkedIn, for example, you're not posting, or you haven't got your email marketing sorted, or you're not regularly sharing content, then that's going to impact your sales process and how many leads actually convert. So you can generate leads, but then you need to nurture them. And I think that's one of the main things we learn in lead generation, is that you can generate the leads, sure, but if you've not got the marketing behind you, then it's not necessarily going to work very well for you, because you can generate some interest, but you really need either solid marketing, where you need a bit of both, solid marketing, but also the nurturing process. What does that look like, and how does that work for your business? And
that's it. I think it goes back to that thing, not being ready. You can turn the taps on and get leads, but you're not necessarily going to make the conversions if you haven't got decent proposal software, for example. People like chugging things with a PDF or a shabby Word document. We've been working in some various different sectors. One of the most recent ones is in construction. And when we put our first proposal into that arena, people were blown away. Not because we were anything special, although it was pretty good. It was like they used to really badly laid out Word documents to sign off £250,000.
Sure. Yeah.
And we're like going, wow, we can do better. And I think if you sharpen the way that you present yourself, particularly in certain industries, that already starts to begin that know, like, and trust journey. That, hang on a minute. If they're putting this amount of effort now, then maybe what they do has got a lot of effort behind it.
Yeah.
And I think people do underestimate the power of presentation. It's like, once I get them through the door, I'll convince them.
Yeah,
It's not how it is anymore. They're going to need to be spoken to 4 or 5 times, not necessarily by your voice, but it could be, as you said, email, a blog, social media post, a podcast, before they're actually convinced that you're the right people.
Yeah, definitely. I agree 100%. And I think you can, continue generating leads. And we have, some customers might say, we've got a very high conversion rate, for example. And, when you look into that, that's based off of them receiving a customer as a referral to their business with someone who's got a need. And it's like, of course, conversion rate is going to be, that's the best type of lead you can 100%. Get is a warm lead, which is a referral, which is a highly qualified person, the decision maker, and so on. So it will be high. But when you start to branch out to other channels and you start to get leads from different places, then naturally the quality of the leads does actually drop slightly. So you do want to get more leads of those types of leads. But on that, I think we do look at referral strategies as well. So one of the things I do start with is looking at the number of referrals they currently get, and then looking at what is their referral strategy. So when are they asking, how are they asking for referrals, what new ways can we generate referrals for them, and then second to that is looking at their warm leads. So I say warm leads, I consider them like your email marketing, for example, your list of people you can contact via email. And then your social media followers, for example. So anyone who's following your content is your warm leads. And then your cold leads are the people you want to speak to. They're not in your funnel yet. They're neither of those. They're just there. You need to create awareness amongst those people, invite them into your world.
Yeah, because what I find is that not enough people, once they're doing those activities, let's say you've come in, you're helping them and you're getting them up and running. But what you do really well is that you go and say, well, let's have a look at the data as well. Because sometimes no one looks at the data. It's someone else's job. And you could have a customer or potential client opening that email up 15 times. And no one's had a conversation with them. And I think for me, it's a case of your leads are closer than you think. Sometimes we think it's like, they're miles away, but even on the Sales Navigator journey, you go on it and you find out that as you're looking for somebody, they know like 25 of your connections. And it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize you knew this person. And sometimes I think just that intelligence alone is like, if they know, let's say 25 of your mutual connections, and they like live in the same city. Let's say you find out they're both in Cardiff, so then it might be worth speaking to that person and see if you can warm that lead up before you even go in and ask.
Yeah.
And it's that data which I think we've got now in front of us, but we just don't use it enough.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, so there's so many times you could use that as well. So on Sales Navigator, like you said, you can go to not just secondary connections, but you can see who's connected with certain people. So then you can have a chat with that person and sort of talk to them about whether that lead is a good fit for you as well. And I think that's a really good tactic that a lot of people aren't aware of potentially. So it's knowing the ability to look at your network basically digitally. It's pretty amazing. And
I mean that's it. I think like when we talk about leads, I think it's still networking in a sense. The core principles of networking being the face-to-face networking is still there. And I know we do online networking as important, loads of Zoom rooms and people are sat in the room, but I think it's to see LinkedIn as a network of people and engage with that. So that's obviously business to business. What about business to consumer? Do you do anything around those areas? Have you got involved with that? Or?
Yeah. I don't tend to massively. But I have, worked in previous jobs with B2C. But generally it's mostly focused on B2B. So with mine, it's mostly about increasing inquiries through the website, so through digital marketing, and also increasing the number of meetings that we book ultimately. But then how we go about doing that, that's a little bit different. I try to avoid just going straight in for the meeting, for example. Like we can do that for people, we do, but it's actually quite interesting to sort of go about the sales journey in a slightly softer way, where you're sort of inviting them to join something, for example, like the webinar. So it softens the sales approach, because naturally, if we're going to speak to somebody directly and they don't know you, well, then it's going to be kind of difficult. It's going to feel like it's quite a hard approach. And I really want to sort of try and soften that down a little bit. And as we know, even with a referral's evidence of that, isn't it? Where you have, they've basically softened them up for you. But they know you, like you, trust you.
But it is a bit like the dating game. It's like, I mean, I've used this actually back to some pitch slapping people. I said, look, you don't marry someone on the first date. You want to get to know them, right? And that's why I laugh sometimes when I get DMs come through, because I'm just like, this person's got no clue. And then they're selling marketing services. And in anything, you want to build a relationship with it. So the ask is a natural, and it's not an ask as in I'm selling you something. It's about how can I serve you more? I mean, that's the big shift for me. Is that how do you build a relationship so much that the natural outcome of that is, wow, you can help me, and then it's not like this awkward, I'm going to ask you out on a date kind of conversation. It's like, it's just a natural progression of the relationship, so to speak. God, I'm just thinking there's a blog in that, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely.
Friend zone. When your potential client friend zones you. What have you got to do there? So just to explain a little bit, I mean, you got your t-shirt on, lead, convert, repeat. So what's the vision for your business overall? In terms of, is it to help and educate those SMEs to be able to find leads and build lists and do things that, a lot of big companies have been doing for years, but is that ultimately the thing that drives you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's mostly SMEs I'm focused on, and it's small businesses, whether that be an independent consultant or a company that's size like 50, around that, and it's everything in between. So I find it just really interesting, just how you generate leads and how many different ways there are as well, and how we can help people achieve what they want to achieve. So a couple of examples might be that they are either sometimes actually quite often they have a channel that works really well for them. So they already have one channel and it works, and they can just keep using that. But then they realize, if we lose this channel, then we haven't got anything, so we need a backup almost. So what's our backup plan? How can we have one more channel that's going to work really well for us? And sometimes I get brought in just to help set this up.
Yeah.
A couple of examples might be the decision maker or the owner says, look, we actually want you to train our team on what to do. So we don't want necessarily you to do it, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We actually want our team trained so that they can run it, so that they're upskilled in this area. And then that works really well as well. So we work with marketing people, sales people as well, and just giving them the tools and creating a strategy with them, with the company, and helping upskill their team. So that's one side of it. And then the other side is actually we just do it. We do it for them.
Yeah, like a done for you service. Yeah. I can take it off them. I mean, obviously you've got a bit of a track record. Our paths crossed, and now we're connected and stuff. But what's your sort of like one of your? Because there's always stories. I mean, I can tell stories. What's a good story for you where you've taken someone that were a bit skeptical? I don't know if this is going to work, but they decided to take a punt on Mr. Doyle, and it worked. Worked really, really well, and you were like, yeah, we've done a great job there. You don't have to. Yeah. You can protect the names.
No, it's all good. Yeah, there's I guess there's so many different ways, but yeah, we a couple of good examples. Very recently, we had a customer who's an independent consultant who messaged and said, yeah, we've for our webinar this month, we've generated 17 leads, and very fortunately, I've had basically not much involvement in that. It's a lot to do with me helping that person get set up so they can run it themselves.
Great.
And they were able to generate that themselves without me. And I think that's a big win. I actually want my customers to get to a point where they are running it either themselves or have the systems and processes set up to allow them to do it themselves. And then long term, that's a huge win. That's massive for me. So even though it sounds small, that one, it sounds like it's...
No, but it's that aspect of education. And I think that there is definitely a gap where people need educating in this area, and you've shown us a few things that I wasn't aware of. And listen, I don't know everything in marketing. I've been in it a while, but there's some new things that you've brought to us that I didn't know I was aware of. But I think what's been good is we've been able to take our approach and just amplify it in certain other ways, but without being the pitch slappers, so to speak, like LinkedIn DM. I mean, I know we've been doing some stuff together where it was a case of, sharing our podcast, just sharing extra value. And the amount of amazing conversations I've got in as a result of that, where we're doing all this activity, but it's like, well, have you thought about doing this? And I was like, no. And then it's like, that's a great in. And then, and then obviously the response rate's a lot higher because it's not broadcasty in terms of it's like, here's some value.
Yeah,
Would
exactly.
you like it?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, why wouldn't I? I'll check it out. And I think that's what I like. It's like, so we've got this philosophy and ethos in the way that we work, and it's been able to say, well, how do we amplify that? And you've shown us a few ways to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that resonates with a lot of people, and I think a lot of people would want to do the same thing as what you were just talking about there, which is leading with value, building relationships first, and using tools and technologies to help you do that effectively and save time. Because ultimately, as business owners, we may be able to get somebody to do the whole job or a job involving that, or use the tools and technology you have available to you to allow you to do that. Because alternatively, there's I'm really interested in saving time. Really, I think is the main thing.
Definitely. And then obviously, like yourself, I mean, you obviously employ these tools to get business, whatever. But do you still do traditional networking? Like getting out there and talking to
100%. So I actually think that the whole purpose around what I'm trying to do is exactly that. It's how do we get in front of people face to face and build relationships as a priority. And the lead generation tactics and everything I'm talking about leads to a meeting where you're face to face and you're talking to someone, or it's inviting them to a webinar, which in case is still like more human.
Yeah.
Like we're taking it from the digital to actually getting in front of people. I think that's what's really important for me and my strategy and my ethos as well.
It's funny. It's funny because we were working with one of our clients the other day, and they just reminded me how they got in touch with us. And it's always good to, because we've been working for about 3 years now, and I think they said, and I remember working with you guys back in the day because I was in a WhatsApp group around a particular theme, and then I think I got a message about this person potentially being interested, and I was like, oh, okay, well. And I just sent them our purpose questionnaire. And they did the purpose questionnaire. Ooh, they thought that was quite interesting. And then this relationship built. And they reflected back, and they said to me, he said, yeah, it all started with that questionnaire that you did. Because everyone's talking about Daniel Priestley at the moment, this whole scorecard app, and great tool. Everyone's talking about wait lists again. But we were talking about this 2.5 years ago. So well done, Daniel Priestley, for like amplifying his new product, like it's something new. It's but the point of it is that even in that there were a few things that I said, but marketing always evolves and always changes. And I think one of the things that I've been very clear with, or what I've seen, is that there's this thought process of creating a niche so tight that only you can fit. But I think there's this aspect of you're painting yourself into a corner completely. You're painting a niche so tight you can't get out of it. So what I spoke to someone about the other day was this, is that I have 3 niches. The first niche is you, as in the company that you got the experience that you can do the best work for, 100%. Work with them. That's your niche. The people that you love working with, it's great, and you're always performing, always deliver. That's your niche, 100%. But then have something alongside it that's almost not the same sector but similar. That you could get referral relationship, partnerships could build that. And then the last niche is do something disruptive, which is a bit outside your comfort zone. Yeah. Because you as a business owner or a CEO or an entrepreneur, whatever you want to call yourself, will get bored if you keep doing the first thing. Yeah. So now if you build around those 3 things, you protect yourself from the pandemic. If there's another one. Yeah. Because that's what happened with us. We were like doing loads of stuff with education and then school shut. And then I was literally online networking to turn the business around because we did what everyone else said. It makes sense. Let's double down on education. But when education folded because everything was shut, we're like, now what? And I think now building that way, it's not hedging your bets, but you're safer as an organization. So you might do campaigns that are niched, like you talk about, like really tight, but it's like, have a 3-pronged attack rather than just a 1-pronged attack. I think that's really interesting. Even with my own business at the moment, I've not niched down to any specific industries, but I do talk about specific industries. I think it's about 4 that I'd say, marketing companies, IT companies, consultants, and SaaS and technology companies. They're kind of the things I keep mentioning, and that's only because probably 1, I enjoy working with them. Which 2, is great. and 2, we naturally sort of get more business from that space. So it's kind of interesting that you say that, because I hadn't thought about that particularly. I know that sometimes I do wonder whether it'd be a good idea to niche down and go really hard on one area. But you're right. What happens if you something happens with that industry? Things start changing. How's it going to affect you? So I guess it's higher risk involved in doing that. But and I think it's not to say you can't work with anyone else, because you'll get people that go, I can't work with anyone else because that'll break everything I built. So, well, no, it's not. It's being wide enough to receive the opportunity, because one of the best things I've always found in marketing is taking something that works well in a sector and taking it to another sector that's never seen it before. So for instance, car industry is a big one. So if you look at the car industry, they package products. So you buy your middle of the road car, you buy your little bit souped up car, so it's the same car but just with extras on it, and then you buy your sport version. That way of marketing, in a sense, is that you could take that automotive approach and apply that to another sector. So you could buy your bog standard shoe. You can buy a bit funkier shoe that you can add a little bit of customization, which is what they've done with football boots, for example, where you could sew your name in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you can go for your elite shoe that if you are a pro, you want to spend the money on that.
Yeah.
And if you look at the sports market now on trainers, for example, like Nike, they got running trainers for £300 that you can buy now. Likewise, you could buy a pair for 30 quid. Or you could buy a pair for 100 quid.
Yeah.
But that's the biggest thing. It's almost like there's this ultra premium trainer now. So they've taken, it's like whether they've done it by accident or not, but there's the package models are now moving into other sectors. Like with coaching, you can buy your one-to-many, your one-to-one, or a done-for-you service. Those are those sorts of things that you can do. So you can take those and bring them into a sector that's never operated that way before.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's quite exciting about taking what you've done in one area and then taking it to another area, because it is like, oh my gosh, didn't know you could sell stuff this way. But we're conditioned as humans to buy that way anyway, because we're making it simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like even in like the housing, when you're buying a house, I know there's people there that literally want to buy a house, but they don't want all the hassle of buying all the furniture. So they go and buy the show house. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, there's all these houses there, but can I buy this one? Well, why? Because you've got all the sofa and stuff. Yeah. And they literally, if you talk to housing agents, they actually hold on to the stuff and they do sell it with all the stuff in it.
Yeah.
So if you're ever thinking about buying a house as a new build, you could get a really cool house with all the stuff in it. You just have to ask.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. It does work across the lead generation sort of space as well. So by packaging, your business in different ways and presenting that, I think that's really important. And also showing, like you said, showing how does your business work, for showing case studies, for example, of where you've helped people within that space. Yeah. And how do you help that person even more? Could it be like through a workshop or a working group? How do you sort of then show them, look, we've helped people within your space. How do you say, come and learn more about how we can help you, and then this is the package that would work best for you. It's that sort of approach.
Again, like university used to market themselves like to get people to come to their university. So there's a lot of marketing and sales techniques in that journey to get students on. Well, that's now filtered down to schools because people are picking free options. So they're having to learn how to sell their school, whereas before they never used to. Now they're up against two other schools. So the one that presents themselves uses marketing techniques and downloaded prospectus and all this, and there's almost automated touch points after. Again, that's come from another sector, maybe a higher education, that now people have started to see it and they've brought it into the lower level education, and people buy off the back of it. And sometimes it's not the school the best Ofsted that wins, it's the one that can tell the story the best. Which is quite interesting. So Luke, I mean, from your perspective, because obviously, there's this crazy thing called AI, and there's not a marketing conversation that goes by about how's AI going to affect things.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on AI and how it can help marketers, or what are the pitfalls are you finding in that space? Or do you get asked a lot, do you use AI?
Yeah, a little bit at the moment. Okay. There's some AI questions coming out. But I think for me, it's going to go one or either way. Two ways. One is everyone's going to really embrace it, and it's going to go towards, the market's probably going to go that way. It's going to go towards more AI, so more emails being run, email marketing campaigns being run by AI, or AIs managing LinkedIn accounts, for example. It's going to go to one extreme, I think, which is it is going to go that way. There's no doubt about it. It'll be interesting when it gets to actually calling people, what happens with AI then, because that seems a little bit further down the road at the moment, but we're probably not that far away. Maybe 3 to 5 years, we might have people calling people using AI, which would be pretty scary.
I saw something the other day, and it's literally an AI call-based model. And they do an example of someone phoning, and it's an AI voice responding.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a sort of weird pause to it, and it's not perfect. And I think the person maybe reading the message out to it sort of seems quite prepared and planned. So I haven't experimented with that yet, but I think later. Obviously, I have to experiment with this type of technology, whether it's the calling thing or the emails. I will experiment with it because I've got to learn that technology quickly, because I have to know what the best way of generating leads is.
Yeah.
And if it is more to do with that, then fine. But I don't think it will be, because one of the values is to go the other way and focus more on relationships.
Yeah.
So you can't, it's going to be much more difficult to build relationships through starting with AI. I think that it might help you open up the door, but then it'd be interesting how it fits in with my business and what do I think of that and what my values. So I've seen other businesses set up where they say, there's no automation, there's no AI, just humans. And I think that type of message is quite good, because if everything's going towards AI, then actually, the other way is actually, no, we're going to focus on real people and real humans. And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, someone was talking to me about Photoshop, they Photoshop as a tool, and they were showing like the content aware function. And even sort of like 20 years ago it was there, but they just put AI next to it, and it's probably a little bit more intelligent than it once was, but fundamentally it's still the same. And I think sometimes it's like we selling products and services that we're saying it's AI, when in fact they're old tools just repackaged under the guise of AI. And I think for me, AI helps with rudimentary tasks or predictions and things like that is great. But ultimately, if you drill down in, selling is based on relationships. And I think for me, I think you'll ever get around that. I think people don't want to talk to a robot at any length of time. They want to get in front of a human. And I think if they're going to spend a lot of money, the last thing they want to do is work with this faceless thing. Like a friend of mine that's in investments, if someone's going to invest £2 million in, let's say, a trust, and they're going to want to talk to a human. They're not want to do it for a faceless robot. They just won't. They want someone to take them by the hand and take them through that process. So I think you're right. You cannot get rid of the human element of any of this in the service-based industry. And I think I heard this beautiful statement the other day. He said, everyone wants to create things in AI, but no one wants to consume it. Because it feels artificial. I mean, I've now given up sugar, but the reality was, back in the day, if you had something with sugar and something with sweetener, you would always choose sugar because it tastes better. And I think we know what we really want and what we crave, and I think sometimes AI can be used as that excuse to sort of like, oh well, we'll just use this. And I think no, AI is a really powerful tool done well, and we know some people that do it exceptionally well. But from my perspective, it's a case of the human contact, human relationship ultimately is what creates leads, converts, and wants people to repeat. Simple as that.
Definitely.
So what's the future look like, Luke?
So I'm going to try and scale the business. So at the moment it's just me. So it's I've built it, just around bespoke strategies for my clients, training, supporting them, getting meetings booked, arranging digital marketing campaigns, and then so now I'm sort of moving towards choosing a specific route that aligns with my values that I'm going to focus on, and then I'm going to try and scale my business around that idea.
Okay, cool.
And I think the most important thing for me was that it aligns with my values. So it's going to be, using all the knowledge and experience that I've built up around supporting people and generating new business and new leads, nurturing them, and what is the best way of doing that. So I think that there's a few ideas on the horizon that I'm going to be experimenting with that might decide actually that is the route I'm going to go down.
Okay.
I feel like I'm almost there with that. So fingers crossed in the next 5 years, I hope to be building a team around me.
Cool.
That was the main thing for me, was that actually I wanted to build a team I just felt like, that is what I want to do.
No, that's great.
Yeah, I tried looking at doing being a consultant.
Yeah.
Just focusing on the training myself, and then after doing that, I've realised actually no, that it's actually going to be this. So I really want to scale now. So my biggest problem in a way is, how do I scale?
Yeah.
So now it's more about scaling my business. Yeah. So definitely need to sort of continue working on it. And then in the next couple of years, hopefully this year, we'll see if I can get that. Yeah, more leads. No, but definitely, absolutely. I just need to get a systemized approach, I think, is the main thing.
So from your perspective then, how will people get in touch with you? Is it LinkedIn is the best place to connect with you? Or? Yeah,
definitely. So it's LinkedIn. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. So it's Luke Doyle. And then my company name is Bravura Digital. Yeah. So the name, it comes from basically being brave. So it's a synonym for being brave. Yeah. So I felt like that's the main message that I wanted to get across to some of the small business owners, that, the sales bit, some of them aren't as keen on the sales bit. And that's where it kind of originated from, is that actually you've got to be brave, we've got to speak to people, but we want to go about it doing it in the best way possible, in the sort of softest approach, where we sort of invite them to our world. Yeah. And I think that's where it's all come from.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's definitely in the SME space. It's probably that's why people don't like networking, because they feel it's selling. I'm like, it's not selling, it's connecting. And often it's very rare that you sell to the room. You'll end up, someone's connected to someone, and then you'll get an opportunity through that, rather than just in the, you might get business in the room, but often it's through the room, not in the room. I think for me, it's a case of, that is a big fear for people. It's like, I've got to make some sales. Oh my gosh, I've got to talk to them. Yeah. You've actually got to ask them if they want to buy off you. And it terrifies them. But that's your business, right? Yeah, definitely. And then when you frame it and you go, well, hang on a minute, how can you help these people? They then kind of relax a little bit and go, well, that's all it is. Yeah. It's how you can serve someone more than what you currently are. So, Luke, really appreciate you coming in. I'm sure we're going to get you back on the sofa. Yeah. I love the aspects of the tools that you're sharing and the techniques that you're sharing. So it'd be good to talk a bit more about some of those clever whizzy tools that are out there and in tech, in marketing. But thank you so much for spending some time. No, it's been great. Yeah. Awesome. It's been really good. Thank you, Daryl. All right, take care. Really good. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Purpose People podcast. How you can help us is to like and subscribe our YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, Google, and Amazon. That helps us get our message out there to help people go after their dreams, double down on it, and be successful in life on their terms.